After 2 years, Arthur walks to the throne and kneels before Pride, who announces him as a knight. After the ceremony, Stale asks Arthur about Gilbert, who seemed to be bothering him during the event. Arthur explains they were only discussing an unusual special ability. Arthur gives Stale a box with glasses inside, which Stale tries on, and the sisters compliment how he looks. Meanwhile, Gilbert bothers Pride about a proposal. Suddenly, Albert steps in and takes Gilbert away. Pride explains that Gilbert was proposing a law requiring people to register their special abilities, but she opposes it, believing it violates human rights. Stale warns Pride to be careful around Gilbert. She laughs, remembering that they got along in the game, which confuses her because she thought Gilbert wasn't a character in it. We then find out that Stale can now teleport more than just himself, and Pride asks him to take them to Gilbert. Stale teleports them to a room where they hear Gilbert arguing with Albert. Gilbert is upset because even after 7 years, his request hasn't been fulfilled, despite quick actions regarding Pride. Gilbert reveals that his fiancée Maria is dying, and he needs someone with a special ability to cure her. Albert tries to empathize, but Gilbert insists he can't understand. In a flashback from the game, Gilbert blames Pride for making him old, after he asked her to pass a law giving her control over special abilities. He did it to save Maria, but now he regrets it. Pride finally remembers who Gilbert is. Gilbert turns out to be a hidden character in the game, and Pride didn't recognize him because he looks different now. His fiancée Maria has an incurable disease, and he made a deal with Pride's character to pass a law in exchange for 5 years of work. But Maria died right after the law was enacted, and Pride's character then forced special ability users into submission or death. Gilbert's guilt over Maria's death left him stuck switching between being an old man and a boy. Pride realizes that Maria is likely to die soon, as the law was passed the same day. Albert orders the guards to search for Gilbert, and Pride questions him about the situation. He tells her Gilbert is missing. Stale explains Gilbert's situation to Tiara, and Pride remembers how her character enacted harsh laws without consulting others. She realizes that this could be the day Maria dies, so she and Stale hurry to prepare. Meanwhile, Gilbert hires thugs to find someone who can cure illnesses, but they laugh at him, not believing such an ability exists. When the thugs attack, Gilbert fights them off, but one of them grabs him, preparing to stab him. Just then, Stale and Pride arrive to help him. Pride tells Gilbert she had a premonition that Maria is about to die. In a flashback, we see that Gilbert was born a commoner, and after his parents died, he struggled to survive. He met Maria when she escaped her room, and they bonded. She had been confined due to her declining health, and he helped fulfill her wish to see the city. She told him it was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen, and their connection deepened. Maria eventually revealed she had a fiancé, but despite this, she confessed her love for Gilbert and kissed him. She asked him to keep seeing her until she turned 16 and got married. Gilbert, who had awakened his special ability of eternal youth, promised to return to her after focusing on his studies. He became Albert's advisor and the nation's chancellor. After returning to Maria, he proposed, and she accepted. But one day, she collapsed due to her illness. Before passing out, she told him to live a good life if she died, but Gilbert vowed to find a cure for her no matter what. In the present, Stale threatens Gilbert, knowing he committed crimes to save Maria. But Pride stops him, saying that Gilbert is still her subject. As they return to the palace, Gilbert begs Pride to help him. Pride decides to help, ordering Stale to teleport her to Arthur and join Gilbert in Maria's room. Pride approaches Arthur and tells him she needs to save someone, warning that helping might change his life. Arthur replies that it's fine, as Pride has already changed his life, and he is willing to die for her. Stale joins them, looking like an adult, but he quickly says there's no time to explain and takes them to Maria, who is on the brink of death. Pride orders Arthur to place his hands on Maria, revealing that Arthur has the ability to heal everything. When Arthur does so, a bright light shines, and Maria's health improves instantly. Maria thanks Arthur, and Pride realizes that Arthur wasn't supposed to know about his power yet, meaning she's altered the story again. Pride thanks Stale for his help and asks why he looks like an adult. Stale explains that Gilbert transformed him to help him move faster. Gilbert, full of gratitude, bows to Pride. He admits to committing terrible acts in his attempt to save Maria and says he is ready to face any punishment. Pride tells Gilbert that while she can't excuse his actions, she orders him to confess his crimes to her parents. She also tells the maids to forget what they witnessed. She then makes Gilbert swear to serve the people and remain the chancellor of the country for the rest of his life. Gilbert, moved, starts crying, recalling how he promised Tiara in the game to protect the people. He takes the oath and pledges his loyalty to Pride, vowing never to forget her kindness. Later that evening, Arthur reveals that the knights have learned about his powers. Stale asks Arthur if he still wants to be a knight, as his abilities could open up better opportunities, but Arthur insists he wants to stay in his current position. They talk about how Pride handled Gilbert's situation. Stale admits he's upset because he hates Gilbert and feels he doesn't deserve his role. Stale starts to doubt himself, thinking he hasn't been able to protect Pride from Gilbert. He begins to cry, but Arthur comforts him, saying Stale has done a great job. Arthur mentions that he used to hear bad rumors about Pride, but they all disappeared once Stale started supporting her. He tells Stale that he can't protect Pride from everything on his own and offers to help. Arthur also notes that Stale is more mature despite being younger and used to cry a lot too. Stale promises not to cry for 5 years, and Arthur makes the same vow, wanting to appear strong. During a royal banquet, Stale confesses to Tiara that he despises Gilbert, but Tiara thinks he's just jealous. Gilbert knows Stale dislikes him and sees it as a challenge. He then formally announces that he will be marrying Maria. At the arena, knights compete for the title of Imperial Guard, and Arthur wins easily. While riding in the carriage afterward, they talk about how tough the competition was. Pride thinks about giving the knights a raise, but the carriage suddenly stops. A man blocks their path. It's Val. Pride rushes to check on him. Later, Val regains consciousness at the castle. He tries to be rude, but the contract of loyalty forces him to kneel. When asked what he needs, Val is compelled by the contract to admit that 2 kids, Keeman and Sefik, were taken by human traffickers. He can't save them himself because he's under the contract, which prevents him from using violence. Pride assures him she will help because human trafficking is illegal, and it's her duty to intervene. Later, when they visit Val, they find his room in chaos. He throws a knife at a spider, startling everyone. Pride tells him to rest because he needs to be ready to save the kids. Val insists he doesn't need their help and claims the kids aren't important to him. Tiara, upset, asks why he wants to save them, and Val coldly says they make his life easier. Pride speculates he's using the kids for his own benefit. Pride stays behind to talk to Val alone. He explains that Keeman follows others because he has no purpose, and Sefik, though not related by blood, looks after him. Sefik has the power to blast people with water, but Val doesn't know Keeman's ability. He admits that he taught the kids about money, but now feels sick. Pride asks Val if anyone is precious to him, but he claims he only values money and his life. She asks how he'd feel if Keeman and Sefik died, which causes him to feel deep pain. Val blames Pride for his emotional turmoil and says she should have killed him to avoid this suffering. He breaks down, confused by his feelings. Pride hugs him, explaining that his pain comes from caring about the kids who are like family to him, even if he doesn't realize it yet.